menstrual products in the boys' bathroom.
Mr. Reagan.
All right, so the state of Oregon has decided that they're going to put menstrual products, tampons, maxi pads, things like this, in the boys' bathroom. And we're not talking about like weirdo, crazy college students. We're talking about elementary school students, like kindergartners. Kindergarten age boys, 5-year-old boys, are going to have tampons available in the boys' room. Free, right? They can take as many of them as they want and do with them what they will. And I think that this is a great idea. Now, why do I think it's a great idea? Well, I will tell you. No, instead of telling you, I'm going to show you. Here's a clip from an amazing television show called Better Call Saul.
Anybody here?
So there you see it, guys. That's the reason why they're doing this. Obviously, for when there are shootouts that the men can go into the men's room. They don't have to go into the ladies' room. They can go into the men's room and they can apply the menstrual product to the wound, duct tape it up, just like we all do whenever we get shot. You know how it is, guys. And yeah, that's how you MacGyver a bullet hole wound. Use menstrual products. That's the only use I can see a man having for a menstrual product. As they call it. That's the only use. You know, and if it's the other kind, you can plug the hole, right? I mean, okay, guys, we all know this is dumb. This is completely insane. There are no little boys who are ever going to use this product for any reason other than to, like, clog toilets and stuff like this, which apparently has happened in some other regions where they've done this. I mean, to me, this is kind of inconceivable because it's like, if they're doing this, if they're actually paying money for this, because it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to put these machines in all the different schools. If they're actually going to do this and waste taxpayer money on this, this indicates that they genuinely believe that children who are little girls either believe they're little boys and we need to somehow facilitate that, or they are little boys on the inside. And the fact that they're menstruating is actually part of their biological sex as opposed to their gender and all that kind of nonsense that they say. And obviously, like, you know, small little girls, they don't have that issue. So the menstrual products in the elementary schools will, I assume, be for like the 6th graders, which I still thought was a little bit too early, but I don't know. I don't have daughters, so. But yeah, this indicates that like they're putting their money where their mouths are, or where other parts of their bodies are. They're investing in this concept that there's all these like kids who are trans and are going to need this in the alternate bathroom, the bathroom of their choice. To me, this is just a bridge too far. This is complete lunacy. And I don't think that this is a winning strategy politically. And I also don't think that it is. All right, let me try to explain something real quick. I'm going to read an article here, but let me try to explain why the left is doing this. Because I'll explain their argument, which is completely absurd, but I've heard it several times, and so I think I kind of understand what the argument is. So I'll explain that in one moment. First, I have to tell you something.
For years now, people have been setting up a little contest between crypto and gold, but that's like comparing trucks with SUVs. Both carry stuff and both travel from A to B, but they do different jobs. Gold's job is to keep the value of your money safe and to preserve its value. And since Ukraine and the oil and inflation crises, gold has done a brilliant job compared to stocks and other investments. So if you're worried about what's going on right now, and who isn't, just talk to the experts at Noble Gold about precious metals IRAs for your retirement. They'll put you straight on your options and they'll hold your hand through the entire setup process. And this month, for any qualified IRA, you'll get an incredible 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin completely free as a thank you. You know, when they sent me this, they send me coins every once in a while. Valeria flipped out. So far, this is her favorite coin, and I have to say, I agree. This thing is pretty nice. So call 877-646-5347 right now to find out more, or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com.
So why is it that the left is doing this? Why is it that they're putting menstrual products in the boys' room? Leftists are proposing this idea, though they have proposed this idea. They seem to believe this idea, that there are all these trans kids in the world, that being trans is something that you're born with, right? You're born as a woman, let's say, with the physical body of a woman, of a little girl, but the brain of a little boy, right? So you like trucks and you like masculine things. You like wrestling and you like guns and you like all the same stuff little boys like, but you're a little girl. Now, we used to call this being a tomboy, and it was perfectly fine. The girl could still grow up and get married and be normal and everything like that. Now they're saying, well, if you're a tomboy, you're actually trans. You actually are a boy. You're not just a girl who has some, interest in masculine things. You are male. So their position is this, that if you are a trans child and we do not facilitate this belief that you're born a girl but you're actually a boy, or you're born a boy but you're actually a girl. If we don't facilitate this as teachers, as parents, if the adults don't facilitate this delusion, essentially, of the children, then we are somehow hurting the children, right? If a child does not get to express their trans beliefs, manifest them in some kind of physical way, like if they're not allowed to cut their hair like a boy's haircut, if they're not allowed to wear boys' clothes, or the converse of that, for a boy to wear dresses or to wear their hair long or to wear makeup or that kind of stuff. If they're not allowed to express themselves aesthetically in the way that they think they need to express the gender that they believe that they are, then we are somehow like psychologically traumatizing these kids. If you tell a little girl who says, I think I might be a boy, if you say, you're not a boy, you're obviously a little girl, then you're a bad parent, then you're a bad teacher, then you're a bad adult, you're a bad person because you have denied that trans child their fantasy or whatever it is. It's funny, because I have little nieces and nephews and stuff. I mean, when I was growing up, there was always kids around, right? Because my aunts and my uncles were always having kids. So every year there seemed to be like a couple more kids born. So there's always little kids running around. And I can tell you this, little children often think that they're something that they're not. They pretend that they're a lion, or they pretend that they're an airline pilot or an astronaut or something like that. I mean, or a police officer or a cowboy or an Indian. Children pretend that they're things that they're not. That's what children do. For some reason, the left has decided, well, it's not for some reason, it's because of critical theory, right? And if you haven't seen my video on critical theory, please watch it. It's about fat is now fashionable, I think the video is called. And it's all about how the left believes that everything in the world is constructed, is invented by evil white men who have just told us how things are. Like, evil white men invented the concept of the masculine and the feminine, and those aren't real things. Those aren't real, those aren't real sociological phenomena. They're not real. They're just something that men invented to oppress women. And so they think that if you can convince women to be more masculine and convince men to be more feminine, then you can like undo all the damage that the evil white men have done. This is their idiotic idea about the world, which is totally wrong, obviously. The left has completely disregarded the possibility that anything in our society evolved naturally. They have now adopted this view that everything was a construct. Everything was constructed intentionally by evil white men in order to control everybody else. This is their new theory of the world, which is so bat crap crazy. I mean, they are like off the wall nuts at this point. I mean, it's just so crazy that they're going to lose every American vote from here on out. I just don't see them getting any more votes because they have adopted this completely insane philosophy. And as people start to recognize how crazy their theory of the world is, they're just going to start rejecting it, because you cannot have a political platform based in a complete and total delusion and retain sensible American voters, even ones who want to believe Democrat ideas, for reasons of equality or whatever it is that they think is going on. I just don't think that it's possible to retain those votes for very long. And so this is part of that, this idea that, oh, well, there's no such thing as like a masculine and feminine, so there's no such thing as, there's no basis for the concept of gender. See, they've split gender. Well, it used to be that gender and sex was the same thing, right? If you said gender or if you said sex, everybody knew it was the same thing, right? Because they didn't have this concept of like how I feel on the inside. No, I mean, nobody had that. You could be a chick who was a bit masculine, or you could be a dude that was effeminate. But you couldn't be a woman just because you felt effeminate. I feel pretty, so I'm a girl now. I mean, that was the thing of comedy. I mean, that would be a joke historically. But now they've decided, no, it's not a joke. That's a real thing. All right. So then in order to facilitate this in the language, they've decided, okay, we're going to take this word gender and we're going to redefine it. And so now gender means how you feel. So sex is now how you're born physically, and gender is how you feel, right? And so they have this idea that a lot of people want their gender and their sex to match, and so we got to start cutting off genitalia and giving people the opportunity to pretend to be what they are and try to embody that physically. I mean, it's just completely, absolute nonsense, nutso. Anyway, so that's why that they're defending these kids, because they have convinced themselves, I guess, that this is all real. They really believe this, and they really think that you're hurting a kid if you don't completely facilitate this, playtime, imaginary land of make-believe, gender-bending insanity. If you don't facilitate this belief in the child for however long they have it, let's say they have it for a week, oh, well, then we gotta put you on hormone blockers and cut your junk off because you think you're a girl this week. If you don't do that, well, then you're a bad person. You've got to completely indulge this child in every delusion that they have. So anyway, let's read an article about this. This is from The Blaze. Love The Blaze. Got a lot of friends over there on The Blaze. The headline that they've got here is, Oregon forces all schools, elementary and up, to put menstrual products in boys' bathrooms with instructions on how to use them. The law aims to affirm the right to menstrual dignity for transgender, intersex, non-binary, and two-spirit students. Two-spirit, by the way, I've looked this up in the past. Two-spirit is this concept that Native Americans used to have, obviously the men that would go out and hunt for the deer and this kind of stuff, but they would also have men that would stay back with the women folk and, make the beads and the necklaces and stuff like that and cook the food. And so therefore, because some of the men were more sort of like domestic housewife types, then they were really a physically a dude, but mentally a woman. So they were like a woman trapped in a dude's body, like the transgenders of today. A lot of Native American groups have spoken out against this because they're like, this is not a thing. It's like a modern phenomenon that somebody invented, the two-spirit Indian Native American, the two-spirited Native Americans. But apparently this was never really a thing. I mean, apparently, yeah, there were Native American men in some tribes who would do more of the sort of the women's work. And that makes some sense because, like, if you only need a certain amount of guys to go out and hunt, then, and you need more of the stuff done back at camp. I'm sure they were, like, chopping wood and still doing somewhat masculine things, despite the fact they weren't out on the hunt all the time. You'd want your best hunters to go out on the hunt. You don't want everybody to do that. So it makes sense that some of them would be more domestic guys. That doesn't mean that they're a woman on the inside, I mean, I think, like, if we look back historically, the Native Americans who were back, at the camp doing the campground stuff, and you said, you're a two-spirit, you really embody the feminine on the inside, you're really a woman, they'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? No, I'm a dude, okay? I'm just chopping wood while these guys go hunting. I don't understand. What's the problem? I think they would be pissed, but we got this two-spirit thing for Native Americans. Okay, sure, whatever. All right, let's read this. So it says, every public school in Oregon, including elementary institutions, will soon be required to provide tampons and other feminine products in boys' bathrooms with instructions on how to use them. Okay, let me just put this out here right now. This is my first thought as soon as I heard this, and I've read other people have had the same idea. These hygiene products are just going to be used for pranks. I mean, they are all going to be wasted. You know how many of them are going to be used for menstrual issues in all of Oregon? 0. Okay, there's not going to be a single one that's placed in a boy's bathroom that's going to actually be used for its intended purpose. They're all going to be used for pranks, or they're going to be strewn down the hallway. I mean, these things. I mean, God, jeez, this is. You know why this is so painful for me, guys? This is where I'm from. I grew up here. This is a good place. If you ever watched the movie Goonies, that was my childhood. Okay, that was my childhood. The movie Goonies was my childhood. We were little boys. We were running around on bicycles. We were riding around on our bicycles, and we were looking for treasure. And we were, stuff like that. Like, that was our childhood. We had a great, great childhood in Oregon. In fact, when I was going to school, it was fine. It was a little lefty, I think, but it wasn't like, this is completely, I mean, the whole, by the way, Kate Brown, I read, is the least popular governor in the country. So I'm just sitting here thinking, look, if the Republican Party of Oregon wants to put me up for governor, I will run. I will run. Because we need somebody with some common sense running for governor over there in Oregon. Okay, let me start again. Every public school in Oregon, including elementary institutions, will soon be required to provide tampons and other feminine products in boys' bathrooms with instructions on how to use them. The controversial requirement is in accordance with the state's new Menstrual Dignity Act, signed into law by... See, this is what I'm talking about. Menstrual dignity, right? They seem to think that these kids, we're refusing them their dignity. These boys who think they're girls and these girls that think they're boys. We're refusing them their dignity by not giving them the tampons that they need, or letting them wear dresses and put on makeup or whatever. I don't know. Signed into law by Democratic Governor Kate Brown last year, which mandates that menstrual products be made available in every student bathroom. Following the bill's passage, the Oregon Department of Education developed and distributed a Medical Dignity for Students toolkit to aid local districts and set forth a phased plan for districts to meet the law's standards and requirements. Effective immediately, each school is required to have menstrual product dispensers in at least 2 bathrooms, but by June 2023, dispensers are required in every student bathroom. KGW-TV reported this. That's Channel 8 up in Oregon, if I remember correctly. The department emphasized that schools must consider all gender access to the products. All gender access. So however many millions there are at this point, every single one of those genders, they all have to have access to menstrual products. Sasha Grenier, a sexual health specialist with the department, said, "This new program will help students participate actively in classes and school activities by alleviating some of the economic strain and experiences of shame and that are often barriers for menstruating people accessing their education." There are no men and women anymore. There's just menstruating people and non-menstruating people. Michaela Bedard, let me try that again. Michaela Bedard, executive director of Portland-based advocacy group Period, added in a press release that this is a progressive policy, but also a bipartisan one, because menstruation does not discriminate from race, class, or political affiliation. Apparently, menstruation does not discriminate based on sexual orientation or gender identity either, or gender, or sex. Everybody menstruates now, guys. The state's resources for abiding by the law are littered with inclusive phrases such as students who menstruate and menstruating and non-menstruating students, as I said. The department argues the law promotes menstrual equality. God, jeez. Oh, no, sorry. Menstrual equity. The department argues that the law promotes menstrual equity. The toolkit goes on to say that the new law aims to affirm the right to menstrual dignity for transgender, intersex, non-binary, and two-spirit students. Jeez. Portland Public Schools is reportedly excited to begin its planned implementation of every bathroom requirement. Oh, isn't it exciting? Okay, I'm going to stop reading here. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Honestly, this is okay. This is like, what do you call it? This is one of those things that's like self-evidently stupid, so you don't really have to make a big video about it. You just have to like bring it to you guys' attention. Discuss a little bit, but it's so obviously dumb. Again, I can't stress this enough. The left is killing themselves, right? Any sensible person is going to look at this and going to say, this is idiotic. This is just not true. You know, you even have a lot of gay people coming out and saying, you know, the trans thing is kind of crazy. Like, this is not real. The only people that I see advocating the trans thing are, you know, like super counterculture-y teenagers, you know, very angsty teenagers who are very rebellious and saying, you know, F the society, F the man, F Trump, F conservatives. You know, if I want to pretend that I'm a man, I'm going to pretend that I'm a man. You know, I'm edgy, I'm cool, right? So you have that tendency of kids to try to be edgy and cool. What we've done in society recently is we've said, you know, edgy and cool is like acceptable. Like if you want to be gay, it's totally acceptable. If you want to be non-binary, that's great. We're going to facilitate that. And I feel like the more stuff that we say is not just acceptable, but cool and right and good, the further people have to go if they want to seem counterculture-y or different or rebellious or whatever. People have to kind of keep pushing the envelope. So that's why I think that you get some people who are just straight up, you know, they'll tell you on TikTok that they're a Satanist, you know, just craziest stuff at this point. So that's one group, right? It's the teenage kids. And then the other group are like, these middle-aged women that for some reason, I guess they want some kind of purpose in life, or they want some kind of a victim to defend, and so they will try to find anybody who goes around saying that they're oppressed, and they will try to fight for that person, whether or not that person actually is oppressed. And we've got this victim narrative in America now that it's like, if you say you're a victim, you know, there is this army of middle-aged white women who will come running to the rescue and try to save you and try to protect you and try to bring in a bunch of tax dollars to try to facilitate whatever it is that you're suffering from. And it's become a really easy grift at this point to just say that you're a victim class and then get all of this money and get all this support and get all this attention. The only victim class that doesn't seem to get any kind of support or attention are actual victims. If you're an actual victim of something societal, like say that you're a man and your wife has decided that she's going to divorce you and take the custody of the kids, you're just screwed. Sorry. If you're a guy who wants to get into college but you can't because you're white and all the black students have gotten all the scholarships despite the fact that you did better in school, or you're a guy and all the women have gotten all the scholarships despite the fact that you've done better in school because, you know, they want more women, they want more black people, whatever it is in your school. If you're a victim of that, well, society doesn't care. You're screwed. So, like, if you try to get a job and they don't want to hire white guys, for instance, they only want to hire Hispanics in this particular firm, you're out of luck. Nobody's going to fight for you. So there are actual victims in our society. They're not people of color. They're not women. And yet they seem to be the only people that cannot get any kind of help. They cannot get any kind of attention. They can't get any kind of sympathy. It's sad, but true. Sad, but true. So the middle-class white woman army, who's always coming to the rescue of all these fake victims, they're just going to keep doing it, I guess. And we're going to end up with crazier and crazier crap. I imagine that we're going to have Satan worshiper class time at certain public schools soon, because that's the next, looks like that's the next iteration of crazy. Yeah, I mean, I don't have to make any more videos telling you guys leftists are crazy. You know leftists are crazy, but stuff like this is, you know, we're getting to the point where it's so outrageous. I can only imagine that the pendulum is going to swing back. That's what I actually expect to happen, because you just can't go this far nuts without there being some kind of a consequence. And I imagine that the primary consequence is going to be, at least initially, is going to be this 2022 landslide election. You know, I don't know if you guys seen 2,000 Mules yet. I'm going to watch it today. I'm going to try to make a video soon about that. But 2,000 Mules, from what I understand, does prove, or at least indicates that for certain, you know, some of the stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about here on YouTube. And so if the stuff in that movie proves to be true, and that, you know, it inspires some kind of investigations and stuff like this, who knows? Trump might be reinstated as president before 2024. I really doubt that that'll happen, but, you know, we can pray. We can pray. All right, guys, well, that's it for me. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just that they're completely insane. Good night.
The trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. Now,
Mr. President, in talking about the continuing recession tonight, you have blamed mistakes of the past, and you have blamed the Congress. Does any of the blame belong to you?
yes, because for many years I was a Democrat.